Combat sports are full of bold fighters, but are you sure you've seen everything? For example, how a young girl caused chaos in China for years, or how a 400-pound gorilla overwhelms a 150-pound opponent. Where were the weight classes at all? And have you seen the fight between Bob Sapp and Tyson? Here, a boxer attacked his opponent's coach. Let's start with that. He completely lost it and ran at his opponent's coach, throwing punches. And if they hadn't broken it up in time, he probably would have been knocked out himself, since the coach was an experienced puncher without gloves. But what is even happening here? Two former champions, Lopez and Vasquez, faced off in a fight for the vacant lightweight title. Up until the fourth round, everything seemed fairly formal. It was a contender's bout, but apparently some verbal spat broke out mid-fight.
But yeah, look at that heart. Talk about guts. He's still right there. That one backed him up. Wama's just got to let it go now. Good left hand.
By the fourth round, Lopez started landing heavy strikes to restricted areas, which quickly escalated the situation. Naturally, Vasquez began losing his cool in response. The fight was briefly stopped to avoid further conflict, but they decided to continue, which was already a major mistake by the promotion. Of course, for them, it was about hype and drawing attention, something Lopez and Vasquez effectively delivered. Actually, it was mostly Lopez, who kept landing illegal strikes that seriously weakened Vasquez.
And now we're getting soaked here. It is getting ugly. Our monitor now is totally covered now as bottles now come flying. Two of them get together. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about right there in boxing. And I said to you, Steve, that
when he finally knocked him out, for some unknown reason, he ran at the coach who had tried to help his fighter.
Bruce right there. You see those guys right there. And those are two champions. Those are two warriors that got it on in the ring, Steve, and at the end of the day, now those are the guys you respect the most.
But that's not even the strangest part of this story. In the heat of the moment, the crowd started throwing bottles, food, anything they could grab at the fighters. This was back when there was basically no protection. People crowded into the ring.
Now we're getting soaked. And now we're getting soaked here. It is getting ugly. Our monitor now is totally covered now as bottles now come flying from all different angles.
And by that point, Vasquez had already come to his senses and ran to the ropes, yelling at the crowd to stop. Lopez did the same. In an instant, a truce happened because of the dangerous situation. And that's how their intense conflict finally ended.
Well, I'd love to see that, but look at Wama's face.
He later faced an equally provocative opponent who mocked Ray the entire fight, dancing and laughing. At first, he made small movements, as if provoking Sifo, like, come on, do it. Or showing Ray that his punches didn't hurt and that he was weak. But with every minute of the fight, his appetite for reactions grew. He started trying to scare Sifo, and then even began dancing. Sifo, being cut from the same cloth, started dancing back, but it was obvious he didn't like it. At times, he even broke the rules. But in the end, unfortunately, he paid for it brutally instead of properly punishing Sapp. Imagine this situation. Your background is already almost like Lennox Lewis, but they put you against Ricardo Mayorga, who at the very first press conference starts mocking your family in a language you don't understand. Mayorga began telling Shane Mosley's son what he was going to do to his father, because Mosley's son knew Spanish unlike his dad. Meanwhile, a translator stood nearby, laughing together with Mayorga at all the trash coming out of his mouth, at the same time explaining to Shane what Ricardo was saying right now.
Papá, finito ya, no más papá.
I'm not gonna have a dad anymore.
Voy a darle.
No, he's not gonna have a dad anymore.
Next to him sat his wife, the mother of that same son, completely confused by Mosley's calm reaction while their entire family was openly being insulted. But just as they stepped away from what he said to the son, the next situation happened. Mayorga slapped Shane's wife on the butt in front of everyone. But Shane couldn't do anything, and his wife threw her glasses at him. But in the end, Mosley's wife was angrier at him than at Ricardo, since Shane didn't do anything in response.
When I get in the ring, I'm really gonna go out there and just beat him down. I'm gonna go right for him and just start throwing punches.
He smacked my ass.
No, I understand
And
it.
you should have killed him when he did it.
I tried. Somebody who was holding me.
Everybody's grabbing everybody.
And you're gonna kill his ass, beat his ass.
I'm gonna get him.
I want to just see you kicking his butt, like seriously, on the ground. I don't care. There's no ref stopping it. Kill his ass.
MMA.
But that wasn't the last press conference. Before the fight, there was also one on the beach.
At the forum. Be there. Be there.
Más nunca volverá a pelear después que lo noquee. Mañana más nunca va a pelear.
Hey, this is that part of the fight where your friend used to go, hey.
It's going down. You'll cut it down to 1 now. He says it's 2. I said it's 2. Now it's 1. He's done. I'm gonna kill him. You can see blood all in the front row. And he comes out there and fight.
And another major incident where Mayorga blew cigarette smoke right into Mosley's face.
Oh, come on, man. Smoke in his face, man. Come on, that's bad. Come on, man. It's an athlete. Come on, man. What's wrong with you, man? Fuck wrong with you? It's an athlete, man. You don't do that.
You want this? Pelea entonces, pelea. You want this? No guantes, dame los guantes sin guantes rápido. En menos de 1 minuto te voy a noquear. Come on.
At one point, Mosley's wife seemed to be enjoying the conflict even more than Mayorga himself.
Right there. There we go. There we go. There we go. Right there. Come on, champ. Right there.
After this incident, Mayorga went to the journalists to explain the reason for his behavior.
You pushed him really hard.
Pero qué atrevido, me botó el cigarro.
He said because he was smoking a cigarette and Shane went to slap the cigarette, so he pushed him hard to get him out of his way.
Él es un hombre, no es una niña, ¿no? ¿De qué va a pelear?
He said, is he a man or is he a woman? Is he going to fight?
Al hombre se le pega, a la mujer no se le pega, entonces él es un hombre, por eso lo vente fuerte.
He said men hit, not women, so that's what he did. He pushed him, he hit him.
Sí.
And what have you seen different after this press conference and before? ¿Has notizaste algo diferente de Shane desde que esta conferencia de antes? ¿Alguna diferencia en él?
Sí, antes no me tenía miedo y ahora sí.
He said before he didn't think that Shane was afraid of him, but now he knows for sure he's afraid of him. He said that he just looked in his face and he could see that he made a mistake.
Yo no sé, Bailo, el promotor, ¿cómo lo consiguió, lo convenció para que se verguiera conmigo? Si ahora él ya está acabado, ya está listo, está golpeado.
He said, yeah, he's already beat up, he's already hurt, and they can see that his promoter made a mistake when they got this fight. Because remember what he said? He goes, he's going to knock him out in the first round. It's not going to be luck. It's not going to be any of that. He's going to knock him out in the first round. He's telling you now. It's going to be worth it for the people to buy the fight because they're going to see him knock him out in the first round.
Pegarle tan fuerte para que no vuelva en sí.
He's going to leave him in a coma. He's going to hit him so hard, he's never going to be the same again. I asked him, that really pissed him off when he went to slap the cigar, and he said, yeah, he had to control himself just to push him and not do something else.
Why did he do the cigar? Voy a ganar.
He said, buy the fight because he's going to knock out this asshole. Let's go do it over here. Over here.
Relax already, bro.
Who is that American? Let him eat enough eggs so he finally has some courage. Oh, come on. Hey! Hey! Your side. What? You trying to mess with the pretty one? Huh? Oh, for my boy? Nah, man, don't be a clown. You're useless, American. You're always scared. Inside the ring, Mayorga continued to clown around with his trademark antics.
Here's a right hand that clips Mayorga. Another 1-2.
Look at Mayorga.
Fight's on. Let me tell you, Mayorga, this gets Mayorga into it. He just let him hit him a left hand. Look at him.
Right hand. Hey, look at Mayorga.
Mayorga behaved as if he'd stepped into the ring drunk, so sloppy with his punches like they'd called a tough guy to the ring who had never even hit a punching bag. Shane was dragging him across the ring with clean shots, and during exchanges, their speed and reaction time felt like the Matrix.
12-rounder. You got 240-somethings in here who both appear weary and maybe...
Ricardo could clearly see that his antics were affecting Mosley. Shane's wife was already angry at him, adding pressure that distracted Shane from the fight. Repeated provocations only increased her frustration and Mosley's fear of failing expectations, because family comes before any fight, or at least Mayorga thought so. He was likely waiting for a moment when Mosley would be thrown off by the taunts, and then he'd land the perfect shot, mentally and physically crushing him. Sounds bold, audacious, and ego-driven, right? And yes, you'd be correct. It was just Mayorga's wet fantasies or dreams before the fight. But all of this looked extremely ridiculous, and in reality, everything he did just made Shane laugh. You could see it at moments when Ricardo started dancing. Mosley was cracking up and moving toward him like he just wanted to teach the troublemaker a lesson.
They have to hit Ricardo before he gets going. He's often invited fighters to hit him, put his hands down at his side, and taking punches to the chin. Did that with Vernon Forrest, and he won. Did it with Tito Trinidad, and that was a bad mistake.
Mayorga flicks the jab out.
Mosley was in agreement with Mayorga. He said this fight would not go all 12 rounds, and according to Mosley, he says, I think I'll get him out of there before this.
Mayorga even managed to land a few shots to the back of Mosley's head. By the end of the bout, Shane was calmer and more confident in his victory, recognizing the unprofessional behavior, giving the audience a good show, and simply finishing the fight silently with a rare liver shot, something few use to end a major fight.
Big double right. That one makes Mosley stumble. And a short right by Mayorga again.
I'm trying to figure out and looking at Shane if he was actually hurt there or just hit off balance.
He's not going to get up. And that's it.
Do any of you remember Bob Sapp? I often see highlight clips of him without context, but he was actually one of the most brutal kickboxers. Even Mirko Cro Cop was wary of him before their fight. Sapp defeated Ernesto Hoost twice, which is already shocking on its own. At the beginning of his career, he received multiple disqualifications because he fought by his own rules, completely ignoring the referee. At one point, referees practically developed a fear that Sapp might run them over along with his opponents. Just look at how a referee behaves in a fight where Sapp throws his opponent out of the ring. He tries to intervene, but Bob simply pushes him aside and continues doing whatever he wants. In the next fight, Sapp tried to repeat the same thing, but the referee was already prepared and jumped in to hold the opponent instead of Bob. That way, if Sapp continued, it would have been an instant disqualification. This time, Bob immediately backed off. But look at what he did in other fights. He literally stomped a Chinese opponent with his feet and elbows and took him down, all completely illegal in kickboxing, and was immediately disqualified. At one point, he got tired of being mocked for fighting weak opponents and accepted a contract against Hong Man Choi, the biggest kickboxer in history, and absolutely destroyed him. They tried to break him with mockery, but it was completely useless. The big guy seemed to love going down in knockdowns, yet he almost always got back up, probably because it's hard to keep such a massive body standing anyway. He just knocks heads off. In this case, the guy tapped out from a strike to the arm from Bob Sapp. Then started protesting, but the referees had already made their decision. After a huge winning streak, Bob Sapp started provoking Mike Tyson for a fight. He called him into the ring and told him to fight right then and there, immediately after Sapp's bout where he had just won. It made Tyson laugh, but he publicly accepted the challenge.
And that's real. With the Marcus of Queensberry, I'm fighting tonight.
Mike Tyson, you talking about fighting him tonight?
Hey, listen up here. Hey. They may call you Kid Dynamite. You mess with me, I'll put your fuse out.
Sign the contract, big boy. Sign the contract.
Though later backed out, fans still create imagined clips of that fight and regret the missed spectacle because it would have been incredibly brutal and beautiful at the same time. And honestly, it really makes you wonder who would have actually won between them.
Tyson onslaught. A right hand right on the chin. It is scored as a knockdown.
Business strong, man.
Tyson wobbles for a second.
There's that puncher's chance I had talked about. Listen, man,
This is vicious punishment.
that's that shot. That's that shot.
And he's down again.
Heavyweight champion of the world.
But while he was waiting for the contract with Tyson to be signed, he kept terrorizing the entire sports scene and even managed to pick fights with arm wrestlers.
Wow. Wow. Well, you better get it right. It's Bob the Beast Sapp, and you may meet the right one or the left one.
And after the massive hype from the fight where he threw a smaller opponent out of the ring, he got carried away and started increasing his fee demands. Always sniffing around for easy paydays, Sapp eventually set his sights on Mariusz Pudzianowski, a man better known for dragging airplanes than throwing crisp combinations. Before the fight, Sapp went full WWE villain mode, releasing a taunting video where he mocked the Polish strongman and confidently claimed he'd fold him like origami.
You hit like a girl.
However, he got burned by his own hype dying down. They fought under rules similar to Pride, and that turned out to be a mistake for Sapp, who liked to go down mid-fight. But before, no one was allowed to finish him off, and here it was completely legal. Soon, the Polish Titan mounted Sapp and launched a savage ground-and-pound session that echoed through the arena. Each punch landed like a judge slamming down a gavel. Sapp turned into a stationary heavy bag, eating clean shots with no defense, no answers, and absolutely no dignity. This fight meant a lot, because a plane-pulling strongman isn't a professional fighter. And here, he got such a response to all the mockery that even Elon Musk was sitting there in shock. In China, a professional bodyguard has been terrorizing the streets and completely random people who crossed her path for years. She literally forced any passersby to fight and provoked conflicts. She specifically chose men as her victims because men are stronger and more willing to agree to street sparring. While we were all watching the UFC and professional promotions, Zhang Meili beat up men from practically every profession. She seems to have some kind of fetish for it. She beat a watermelon seller, a janitor, a soldier, a courier, a basketball player, a truck driver, a cook, a random old man from the street, school students, even her own fiancé. I won't list everyone because the list goes on endlessly. It's better to show it in action. She's like something out of the game Tasty Planet. She started from the kitchen, or rather from the place where she was made into a bodyguard during boxing training, terrorizing everyone who was there, in sparring and drills.
下来就痛苦地倒在地上，复仇失败。
算了吧，算了，回去再练练吧，我就先走了啊。
Then she decided that her punching power was weak and that she needed to toughen up her fists with bricks. After breaking them all, she moved on to people close to her. Terrorized her boyfriend and went on to terrorize guys from the gym, smashed the coach,
双方开始后，从教练呢身高臂长， 张美丽退的时候也是相当不错的。
Moved to another section of the gym, and got to a tennis and boxing coach at the same time. Who? You? I'll destroy you. The boxer decided to switch to kickboxing, but he was quickly stopped. However, imagine the situation. A girl comes up to you and says that she has no equal in boxing and that she'll beat any man, and you're a boxing coach, but apparently not very experienced. Or you don't hit women, because she literally beat him so badly that he started running away from her in the end.
教练看似滑做保留，没有拿出真功夫。
漂亮，躲了，哎，又有了。认输，认输，大老爷们。
He was so upset that he couldn't resist that he quit on the spot. On the way out of the gym, she beat up a seller from a local mall.
A few moments later.
Leaving the complex, she picked on some activist guy.
哎，你好。哎呦我，哎呦我去，这漂亮！张美丽加油！这小子肯定当过兵的，怎么练？张美丽加油！哎呦我去，又去我！张美丽挨打也没事了，现在。我谁？轮他！谁？加油！还有10秒！加油兄弟！
Then met the courier from the story mentioned above. A deal is more valuable than money, but she managed to beat the courier too, oddly enough. Other than military guys and coaches, no professionals showed up on the street anymore, so she went all out and started smashing stocky guys. For example, janitors, promising to clean the streets all day instead of the shift of anyone who could beat her. Quickly picking a lucky one, they took him to the square and the slaughter began.
That will be a guaranteed day off from work today.
这大哥练过的。哎呦我去！哎呦我去！瞪俩眼珠子打呀，这是。哎呀，中一拳！我操！站长，这的，加油！加油，张美丽，一直进攻，加油！
The old man tried, spun around, had a lot of strength in his hands, but she overwhelmed him with accuracy. And she didn't clean the streets that day. Without even having time to rest, she met a watermelon seller, and the bet escalated. She bet him a whole truckload of watermelons. It's unknown what she offered in return, but the seller eagerly agreed and rushed at her right away, which was already a mistake. She was waiting for the moment for precise strike. If it seems to you that the guys in the video, even though they're from different professions, don't throw proper punches and don't even try to keep any kind of striking technique, at least for movies, then you don't know one of the strangest laws in China, where street fights are punished so severely that you can be sent to prison for several years just for being the one who started the fight. That's why videos often go viral on the internet where conflicts in China are resolved by spitting in each other's faces, because physical violence is prohibited. Because of this, people are so unexposed to conflict. Do you think that's a good thing?
这种王八拳，胳膊抡圆了，真的非常耗体力。
In the end, the seller was already running away and squatted down with the realization that he had lost the truck, chasing the watermelons disappearing into the sunset.
直接跑进了驾驶室，发动了汽车，把一车瓜拉跑了。
She liked winning watermelons and she ran off for a new batch. But she was refused. Realizing that trucks were the theme, she ran to truck drivers. And after the first refusal, she lowered her demands a bit and approached a small truck. And here, the first serious conflict in her adventures happened, because all the previous victims didn't seem very opposed to sparring and reacted to defeat quite calmly. But this truck driver was clearly aggressive. The so-called referee stopped him several times.
切磋一下，怎么了？切磋那就来就来吧，来。行，不，这样啊，兄弟，翻！带领着王八拳就。张伟丽上，对，好家伙！哎呦我操！躲闪反击。对方是王八拳界这个天花板啊！别惯着他，你的实力哪去了？张美丽打得好啊！张美丽加油！加油！快要赢了！再上加美丽！哎，停！哎我操！哎，停！
来啊！来，找找，
哥们儿，出血了这，没事。张美丽，你这头发你瞅瞅，又他妈乌哒哒的。
不是这遇到什么人？不是这样。
不打了。
要不再来呗？
你来个嘚儿，你来。
But he still shouted enough that by the evening the bodyguard was washing his truck together with him.
到那个洗车场，让我给你洗。
就我这时候，张美丽就适合干这活，瞅瞅。哎呦我去。
He was also the one who brought her back to the city by nightfall, where on the way home she went out to the square and decided to beat up a random old man. To be fair, he claimed he was a former samurai and capable of defeating anyone.
哎，干倒了一会儿。大爷加油！哎，你瞅瞅，还有小。
Naturally, the bodyguard decided to satisfy her ego and defeated him, at which point his son immediately ran out and said that age matters and that he was ready to avenge his father. But in the end, he got beaten too.
漂亮！漂亮！被打了！好，我去！好！哎，得分！加油！最后10秒。
And they acknowledged Mei Li's strength. The next morning, Zhang went to educational institutions where a schoolboy beat her. On a good vibe, she gave them a ball. By the way, on the way there, she met the same old man and decided to spar again, already clearly going easy on him as a sign of respect. But the kindness didn't last long. In the same institution, after tossing the ball around a bit, she aggressively went at a student basketball player, forcing him to beat her, otherwise taking his ball.
这彪哥不一般呐！我操，练过这脚，我操！哎我操！给我打！对，就我操，这打王八拳，他那王八拳专业户，我操！哎，对，就变富棍，对，加油！张美丽完犊子了，张美丽，你要不赢你就跟他走吧。25岁，对，往王八拳抡，对，啊！最后20秒，加油！抡点兄弟，加油！对，加油！兄弟，别骂他，对抡。
Obviously, after easily defeating him, she didn't take the ball, only because of the court security guard. And that's when the media started recognizing her. She was invited to her first show. And from that moment, the lid completely blew off. She started sparring with a taxi driver instead of paying for the ride.
你收我500。
Pai wanted to earn money so badly that he tried as hard as possible, swinging his arms as if he wanted to put Brock Lesnar to sleep. He was promised good tips, and judging by the aggression at the beginning, they wanted to cheat him out of money. What arrogance. Mayley was waiting for her moments as always. Everything naturally live on air, and in the end the taxi driver just fell, which meant the ride was free today. Got into a fight with a cook. And was fed for free and even given expensive wine for winning. A rural blogger noticed her, promising to give her a camel for a victory, which she successfully did.
这胡子哥一击打得很漂亮。整体来看，张美丽这个拳击技术还是要在这个胡子哥这连续进攻得手。看来张美丽对这个骆驼是势在必得。
There in the village she was fed, and she started going at a woman who lived in a yurt. But against women, she somehow couldn't dominate. Not wanting to leave without any gain, she stole a tractor. By that point, her hype was at its peak, and then karma came back for all the time she had been bullying people. An airport worker brought her back down to earth, a guy who had clearly trained before.
活该长大单身，带拳套吧。
走，开始。我操，对方他妈！哎，好家伙！哎，张伟，你抬头，来，怎么了？开始。哎，张伟出血了，张伟。张伟，对，哎，别动。哎。
They wanted to stop her before things turned into a serious conflict with consequences, but her ego was already hit, and she didn't care about the consequences. It was important for her to win on camera, live on Instagram.
对，出拳，对，不管他是重不重，你也得有频率。加油，小伙子，你也加油！
She was furious after the sparring. She used to chew through military guys like seeds. And here, an ordinary airport worker completely destroyed her. Basically a clean sweep without taking a single hit. She tried to impose non-existent rules, like saying he wasn't punching with proper technique, but he just silently left and didn't listen. The whole internet exploded. The hype started to die down, because now the entire background looks staged. Her cameraman, who was also acting as a referee, scolded her for a weak fight and said that everyone in the live stream was calling it a complete disgrace, while she was still saying it was an unfair fight and that it wasn't her fault. Maybe that's true. After all, she shouldn't have been challenging men to fights as a woman, even based on physiology.
你牛逼，你等着，你等